Oh, this one's mobile. It's got 11 The Union Pacific.
Hello again and welcome back. We're glad you've joined us. Today we're going to be continuing the lessons on the 3D Train Studio. So we hope that you'll enjoy your time, and we'll be starting in just a second or so. We've already gone ahead and loaded the 3D Train Studio program and loaded the project that we began last time. We'll continue where we left off. The first thing we probably want to do is to go ahead and stop the train. So let's go ahead and click the little circle with the square in it, which is stop. And the train has stopped. In most layouts, the track is usually not flat against the board. So we're going to go ahead and take this section right here, and you'll note that I've replaced the arrow with a green crosshair. It's a little easier. So we highlight the track in question that we're going to be changing. It's the flex track. We go down here to the little icon that indicates the three-dimensional tool that shows us our position and our rotation, and we're going to go ahead and raise this track approximately 1 inch. Now, since we're working with metric, the magic number here is 25.4. So we enter 25.4. Hit enter. And as you can see, the track has been raised a little bit. Now, we're going to go ahead and we'll select this track right here. We're going to go to the gear icon, and we're going to choose Active Track Modification, Raising Track. We'll put the pointer right on the end of the track. It turns green. Click and drag up. So we've raised that up and rejoined the track that we raised. We'll do the same thing on this end. And we've got now a slight hill in the middle. We want to actually put something underneath this hill to support it. And so the way to do that is to go ahead, go down here under Extra, and click Adjust Terrain. Now the width of that right now is set at 60 millimeters. And when we click Adjust Terrain, it raised the ground right here. We'll do the same thing here. And then we'll go ahead and click on the track that we put in that we raised and click Adjust Terrain. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And you'll note that the ground has been raised to meet the track bed. Zoom out a little bit. And there we go. We can do that with other sections of track, but we don't really need to on this. So we'll go ahead and we'll just do that. Now, most of the time, railroad is not built on sheets of plywood. In fact, the ground underneath most railroad tracks does not look like plywood. So we'll go ahead and we'll select the bottom plate. And we'll go ahead and go to the paintbrush icon here. The paintbrush icon allows you to place textures in your layout. In the paintbrush menu, indicated here, we have the brush size, and most of the time it starts at 100. I've put it at 600. The gradient normally is around 75. We've put that at 0. And then the next item down here, opacity, is how transparent the texture that we're going to be applying is. We want that to be 100% opaque, indicating that nothing will show through. The size of shape of the paintbrush is indicated here, circle or square. We'll choose square. Now, in this box here, it shows the texture that's been selected. And if we click the down arrow, it shows a couple of textures that have been used previously and then erased. But we'll go ahead and we'll choose another one. We do that by clicking the little box underneath that has the plus sign, and it brings up our textures menu. We'll go to terrain, and we'll go ahead and we will find a terrain that will look nice. And let's go ahead and we'll go with medium brown rock. Double. It loads and shows up. Now we click paint mode. The paint mode box turns blue. Go up to the board, click, hold the mouse button down, and just drag across. And it paints the background we selected, the texture, onto the board. And we'll go ahead and it paints the board, but not the track and not the train. So there we have a background added on. We'll go ahead and go over beside the picture of the texture. There's a little drag bar. Now it starts out at 100 at 1.00 actual size. We can make that either much less, like 40, 62, 102, 122, all the way up to about 20. You'll want to experiment with that and find a size that looks good. 0.82 looks okay to me, so we'll leave that as is. We'll take the paint mode off. And there we are. And let's go ahead and we'll tilt that forward. And as you can see, it looks kind of like a rocky surface. Now, let's go ahead and change the texture or the track appearance. We'll go ahead and click on a piece of track. We'll go down to holes and solder, which is the selected texture for it. Click. It brings up the same menu for textures. We'll go with tracks, and it lists a number of different types of track bed, including track like wood and ballast. We'll click on that. And now that looks kind of a grayish, and if we zoom in on this and move over, we'll see that the track bed looks a little different than it did before. We can also color the track, and we go back to tracks and go over to colors, and we have a number of different colors. Let's go ahead and take this one. Geas means track, and blau is blue. So there we go. We've colored that track blue. Let's color this one to a different color. Again, same way. And we'll put in green. And we could do that with the entire track if we wanted to. If we take the track bed off of this green piece, you'll see the ties are green. The rail is a slightly different color, kind of a silvery color like real rails are that are in use. And so that's how you go ahead and change the track bed color. Let's go ahead and we'll put one more in. And we can go ahead, come over to the other side, to the other switch. Let's go ahead and move the train out of the way. So we'll click on the gear so we can see the speed control. We'll drag the bar over the other way. In fact, let's try that. 330, it should show up in a minute. And it's not connecting. It stopped. Now, the reason why it stopped, if we go ahead and go back to 3D and zoom in, we see that the track is broken right here. It's too high on this end. So we'll highlight the track. We'll go to track modification, raise the track, put our pointer on the end, click, drag, drop it down a little bit, and now it's lined up and connected. Let's zoom out, find the train again. We'll go ahead and we'll drag the speed bar over, put it at 190. We'll get the train to go down into the lower loop. And then we'll go ahead and we'll stop the train once it's past the switch. The train doesn't immediately stop, It slows down just like real trains do. Now let's go ahead and go back to our extra and go into our controls and go to indicator lights. Let's go ahead and grab the indicator light with the arrow. We'll bring it up here. We'll go ahead and we'll change the scale on this one down to Z again. Move it out from under the track. Let's go ahead and zoom in so we can see it. And then we go ahead and we'll rotate it. Indicating straight. Go back to our gear. Connect this one to the right hand indicator. Click on this switch. Change the switch. The light goes out. Comes back on. And now let's go ahead and we'll zoom out a little bit. And we would normally put text here, but we don't need to. Another thing that we can do is to go ahead and go back to the main menu for the catalog. Go to Railroad, to Railroad Engineering, and we'll go to Signals. Now there's a number of little items here that can be added on, including semaphore signals. But let's go with the DE, the German signals. And we've got one right here. In fact, we've got a whole bunch of them. And let's go ahead and scroll over. And find one that's okay for us. We'll go ahead and we'll take this one right here that's highlighted. We'll put this up here on the track, and then we're going to rotate it a little bit. Let's go ahead and tip the board down, and let's rotate the board 180 degrees. And you'll note it's got a green and a yellow. Let's go ahead and click that. We'll connect that to the right-hand switch. And when the switch is straight, the lights are green and yellow. And when we change the switch to turn, it turns to yellow, yellow. Now, since we actually want something that has a red indicator as well, we need to go ahead and perhaps maybe remove that one. And then we'll go ahead and we'll find one that has a green and a yellow one. Now when this is up here, we can go ahead down here. There's a little blue circle with an arrow that cycles the signal through its different settings. And it's got green, red, yellow, and it goes real fast. So let's go ahead and we looked at the day-night switch. Let's turn it to night. You'll note the colors actually show green, yellow, and they actually light up. We'll go ahead and stop that. We'll close that. Take this signal, stick it on the board and rotate it. We can get it. There we go. And rotate it. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and we'll connect that to the right-hand switch. And when it's straight, it shows red and a couple of white warning lights. That would work for the turn part. So let's go ahead and grab the signal and move it to the other side of the track, to the right-hand side. And rotate it just a little bit. And now let's go ahead and we'll go into the locomotive, enter the cockpit, and turn the speed up. Let's go up to like say about 116. And when it comes around to where the signal is, and this is the signal on the other side, then we'll continue on. Speed it up a little more. Now you can see the signal in the distance. Let's slow down a little bit. And as it goes around the corner, you'll actually be able to see that light. And that light is indicating not to turn, so the train will go straight. Let's stop the train now, exit the cockpit, and for just a moment we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the locomotive and the cars and make them invisible. And that's so that we can see what we're working on that's being blocked by that. Now, there's two ways, actually three ways, to control a switch. And the controls for those are located in the catalog under Extra, under Controls. And this is one way. It's 2X Schalter, and that means two-way switch. And we'll go ahead and we will take this, put it right here. And we can then go ahead and program this switch to control this switch using a feature of the program called the EV, or the event handler. Now, we'll get into that later, and since we're not going to deal with that right now, let's go ahead and take that switch out. We'll go ahead, and it's got little green boxes, and they have switch three-way with lights, a switch two-way left, and a switch two-way right. Let's take this one, we'll put it on here. Now we want to tip this switch up so we can see the face. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the Y and we're going to tilt the switch up. And if we zoom in a little bit and back up just a touch, you'll note that the switch is upside down. Now the easiest way to rotate that is to go back to our XYZ tool, go down to the rotation, go to Z, change that from 0 to 180, and hit enter. And it rotated it, but it wasn't the rotation we wanted. So let's go ahead and put that back to 0. The rotation we want in this case is actually the X rotation. And we want it actually at 90. Let's go ahead now and raise it in Z, which is above the board. And the switch is now facing us, but it is still upside down. So let's go ahead and change the Y rotation to 180. And it rotated it the wrong way. Let's try that again. Perhaps maybe it's the Z rotation. Apparently not. So we'll go ahead and we'll use the gizmo. We'll take this one and rotate it. Until it's correct. We'll raise it up a little higher so it's up high enough to be seen by the locomotive, and deselect it. There's a button here. If we click this, it went ahead and it switched it to straight. Actually, maybe it didn't. And the reason why is because it's not connected to the switch. Now it's showing turn, and when we click the red button, it switches it to straight, indicated in the light as don't turn. Click the button, indicates turn. We could do that with the other side, but I think you get the general idea. So let's go ahead and deselect back to the work area. And now, to bring back the train that is currently invisible, we'll go to Edit and Select. It shows everything that we've got in our layout, including the locomotive and the two cars that we made invisible. Let's select the locomotive. Click OK. Go over here to the I symbol, which is red with a slash through it. Click that. There's the locomotive back. Let's go ahead and click on Edit again. Select. Pick up the gray Union Pacific wagon, brown. It's grayed out because it's invisible. So we'll click OK on that. We'll make that visible. And then we'll go ahead and we'll pick up the last piece and make that one visible as well. Now, right down here at the bottom, there's a little sun symbol that switches between day and night view. We'll put that on night. We'll go up and we'll click on the locomotive. We'll go ahead and we'll set the speed. And of course it's not connected, so we need to go ahead and stop that. We'll put it in reverse at about 20. And we'll bring the locomotive back. And as it touches each of the cars, it will hook up to them. While we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and rotate the view so that we're facing the front of the locomotive as it backs up. And now it's coming into view, and you saw lights on the back of the locomotive. And we'll go ahead and we'll just wait for that to back up a little bit more until it connects to all of the cars. And now we can go ahead and stop the locomotive, put it in forward. And there's the headlights of an oncoming train. You'll note the arrow over here is highlighted. It glows. And if we rotate the view 180 degrees so that we can get over to the other side, then we'll go ahead and we'll get to the other side in just a couple of seconds or so. And we put a sign on the other indicator light, and we had it highlighted for glow. Glow makes it light up at night. So when we get over here and the train has already come, you'll note the sign is lit up. Let's zoom out. There goes the caboose. And let's go ahead and while we're waiting, let's go back to our 3D models. We'll go to Scenery, and we'll go ahead and we'll choose, let's see, how about fences and walls? Fences and walls aren't really what we're looking for, because I'm looking for a light. So let's go back to the main screen, and we'll go to Street. Now we've got some streets, and here's an old lantern. We'll go ahead and we'll stick that about right there. And it's not turned on. So let's go ahead and see if we can find that lantern. There it is, right there. And we'll go ahead and if we turn it off, that doesn't make any difference. Position on. Apparently this one doesn't light. Or maybe we have to connect it to something. Let's check the animation for it. All animations. Start. Forward. Yeah, this one doesn't light up not very well, so let's take that one out, and we'll see if we can find one that's a little better in our lights. And go over to Properties and turn it on. Doesn't want to stay on. There we go, it's on. And you'll note that there's a light shining down. So if we go ahead and take this and rotate it 180 degrees and then move it over towards the track more, it actually will shine on the track. So that pretty much takes care of today's lesson. Join me next time, and we'll do a few more things like mountains, and we'll talk a little bit more about texturing and getting some more interesting results with textures.